Chapter 10. Makenna slapped at her nightstand, trying to find the ringing phone in the dark. Her fingers touched the solid form and she brought it to her ear, clicking the call button as she did. "Captain Drake?" Her voice sounded heavy with sleep. "Sorry to wake you, Captain, but I thought you might want to know there's been another fire." At the sound of the fire chief's deep voice, her eyes snapped open. "Another one? Are you sure?" She glanced at her watch. It was 2 a.m., but there would be no more sleep tonight. "Yes, ma'am. I'm here now with my crew putting it out, but we were too late." Makenna sighed as she flipped back the covers and stepped out of bed. "Another victim?" "Afraid so. The address is listed as Dustin Cox." "Okay, I'll grab my team and be there shortly. Can you try to keep the crowd back until we get there?" "Already have a man on it." "Thank you." She hung up the phone and changed into her uniform before she sent out the call to her team. It would be another long day for all of them. Makenna was the first to arrive on the scene. Black smoke still wafted in the sky, but the flames had been doused. All that remained of the house was charred bricks and partial walls. She was getting tired of seeing this in her town. The fire department had a spotlight set up to see in the dark night, but she pulled her flashlight as she approached anyway. She didn't want to miss anything. "Same as the last one?" she asked Chief Fry when she reached him. Fry had been the chief for 10 years, so he'd been at all the previous fires as well. He nodded and glared out at the scene. "Smashed window. Gas. Nothing left. Sure looks the same." She understood his anger. They were supposed to be protecting the town, the citizens, but because she was failing, he was as well. "Thank you, Chief." She clicked her flashlight on and scanned the ground as she walked the perimeter of the house. Unfortunately, the hard ground didn't help. Her own steps left no prints, so she doubted the killers had either. "Hey, Captain," Tad said as he jogged up to her. Kelsey and Braden were a few steps behind. "Any luck yet?" "No, and I doubt we're going to find anything, but we gotta look. Kelsey, you and Braden take a circle farther out. Scan for anything, footprints, weapons, and don't forget to scan the crowd. This guy probably sticks around to watch. Maybe he's still here. Detain anyone who looks sketchy." "You got it," Kelsey said as she and Braden flicked on their own flashlights and began walking the perimeter she had assigned. "I don't get it, Tad. How can this guy leave nothing? No prints, no weapon, nothing." Frustration colored her voice, but she couldn't help it. She had hoped bringing Matt back would disrupt the killer. Instead, she had another body on her hands, and still nothing to go on. Bubba woke to the sound of bacon sizzling and coffee dripping. He'd forgotten how noise carried in his parents' house. When he'd been in high school, he'd hated it. Not only could his mother hear his phone conversations, no matter how quiet he was, but sneaking out, or in for that matter, had never been an option. Not that he was the type of kid who sneaked around, but he'd wanted the option. The one time he had tried, though, his father had been there to meet him as he climbed in the window and nearly scared the daylights out of him. This morning, though, he didn't mind. His stomach rumbled as he kicked back the covers and padded over to his suitcase to get dressed. Across the room, his cell phone buzzed. It had to be Makenna. No one else he knew would text him at 7 in the morning. He picked it up and sighed when he read the message. Another fire. Another life taken. Who was this guy? "Good morning, Matt," his mother said as he entered the kitchen. "Did you sleep well?" Matt. The name still caught him off guard, but he hadn't had the heart to ask his parents to call him Bubba. After all, he'd let them believe he was dead for 5 years. "I did, but unfortunately, Makenna will be here soon. There was another fire last night." Fear clouded his mother's eyes as she set a plate of bacon and eggs in front of him. "Do you think it's safe for you here? Won't he go after you again?" "I don't know, Mom. If I even had an idea of who this guy was, maybe I could tell you, but I've got nothing. Still, I can't go back to Fire Beach knowing this is happening. Now that I'm here, I have to stay until it's over." He speared an egg and shoved it into his mouth, but his mind wasn't on the taste. It was on his past life here. Who had he known who would want to kill him? The answer was no one. He hadn't been mean to people in high school. And while there were women he hadn't dated, he had always been as nice as he could when turning them down. Then he'd gone to the fire academy and been a firefighter. His job was to help people. Had there been someone he saved who hadn't wanted to be saved? He'd heard stories about people like that, going after the people who saved them, but no one had ever blamed him that he knew of. The knock on the front door came just as he finished breakfast. "Gotta run, Mom. That'll be Captain Drake." "Please be safe," his mother said. "I don't want to lose you again." "I promise." The words were easy to say, but he just hoped they were the truth. "Sorry for the early text this morning," Makenna said as he opened the door. Dark circles ringed her eyes, and his heart went out to her. A part of him wanted to take her in his arms and ease her stress, and the other part of him wondered what he was thinking. He didn't have feelings for Makenna, did he? No, it was probably just seeing his family again and realizing his parents had something he might never have. But he couldn't deny there was something appealing about Makenna. She held herself with an air of confidence that he found attractive. "It's no problem," he said, shutting the front door behind him. "It's what I'm here for." "Right," she said. Was that disappointment he heard in her voice? Was she feeling something too? "So, what's the plan for today?" "A quick stop at the station to gather information about our victim, and then we'll go to his place of employment and interview friends and family, just like yesterday." "Sounds like a plan," Bubba said as he slid into the passenger seat and buckled the seatbelt. 10 minutes later, they were in the station and staring at another photo on the board. Another young man, probably in his late 20s. Bubba hated the loss of lives so young. "This is Dustin Cox," Kelsey said. 28 and single. He worked for Harrison Insurance where he was a claims agent. No family in town and no apparent connection to Peter, the first victim. Makenna sighed. "Okay, Bubba and I will go to his job and see what we can find. You guys keep digging. There has to be some connection we're missing." What were they missing? 2 men from different backgrounds who worked different jobs? Why were they being targeted? Bubba shook his head in frustration, sure that the answer was right in front of their faces.